podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
It seems rumours are true. We're set to be no more. Tonight, we'll discuss how it happened, where we can go from now, and how you can keep supporting the Ospreys going into the future. Stay tuned. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very somber episode of the Ospreys Eyrie. I'm joined by Grant, Jack, and Josh. As always, boys, how are we doing?
Good question. You don't want the truth.
To be honest, I think the picture says 1,000 words. Let's jump straight into it. The big piece of news for this week, disappointingly for everyone involved, the WRU have held talks with the Ospreys owners by Cardiff. It's as the rumours going that Y11 were chosen as to be the preferred pick of the bidding process when Cardiff, to become Cardiff's new owners, is supposedly confirmed in a meeting last night, helped him board, and then was pretty much leaked to Wales Online maybe 20 minutes later after the WRU put out a statement. It's crushing, to put it politely. I don't know if you gents can put it any better than that.
Well, the first thing that gets me is the WRU statement that came out was very matter of fact and bland, saying we've picked our preferred partner. We're going to carry on negotiations with. Things will be sorted within the week, and everything will be done within 2 weeks. Fine. Okay. Then, that's much of a muchness. Nothing's come out. We're expecting that from today, and like you said, within 20 minutes or half an hour to have it announced as Y11 leaked again is absolutely disgraceful. It's so unprofessional. I just cannot believe that we've ended up in this mess again because of the way that WRU work. That's the thing that just triggers me in the first place, and the consequences of that rolling on for the next 23 hours now just fried my head.
It's hard to say how it came to be this way. I think we all know the process. It's been documented wildly, mainly on Wales Online. But the manner of finding out is so typical of Welsh rugby. It's really quite disgusting.
Yeah.
You've had, what was it, 2-3 days ago, Lance Bradley on Twitter saying it's all bollocks, which is like, it hurts, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, that statement was that the Ospreys will be no more as of the end of next week.
Yeah.
And we definitely use till the end of the season as a minimum. So it depends how pedantic you want to be about what the reply was intended and aimed at.
Yeah, that would be a pretty disingenuous response, wouldn't it? If that was the response of, well, we are here till the end of the season.
Yeah.
I just think, I know a lot has been said on the pod already, on past episodes about how, it's hard to speculate on what's happened because we're not behind the closed doors and we don't know what's happening. But I think there's a way to treat people and there's a way not to treat people. And I understand that people are going to go, oh, well, it's a business and it's about making money in X, Y, and Z. Yeah, but there's still people involved in that business and it's not any normal business, is it? And to seemingly keep the players in the dark, fans in the dark, staff in the dark about this process and how it's gone, the nonchalant way that, Lance Bradley has conducted himself on social media in public throughout this time as well. The way that there just seems to be, the way that the leaks come through without any clear communication, the fact that the players are communicating how they feel about it before the club have even made a statement, it's bullshit, and it's ridiculous. Because if you're putting that bid in and you've put that bid in, that bid doesn't come from nowhere. It's put together by people before you sit in a room. Surely you also draft statements just in case things like this happen. You get prepared. The WRU prepared for the leaks because let's be honest, we were all waiting for the leaks and they came 10 minutes later. Still absolutely nothing. And I know there's going to be the argument of, well, they can't say anything at the moment and it's, everything's still up in the air and so on. But anything would be better than silence at this point. Anything. And you're not having it. And I don't think it's the correct way to be treating people, to be treating fans, communities, rugby clubs, players, people who are invested in this. It's shithouse behavior, and I've got absolutely no time for it. And this idea that like, oh, we're all going to jump on some kind of bandwagon and support another club now. Like, why would you have any faith in the WRU running anything at all? Look at the money they've wasted on, people coming in and giving reviews and whatnot over they've given no evidence to suggest that they actually know how to run a professional game in Wales. None at all. But they're expecting us all to go, oh yeah, well, we'll believe you and everything's going to get better. It's shite. It's complete shite. Like at this point, as far as I'm concerned anyway. There's nothing to indicate that any of this is going to work, and there's nothing to indicate that they're going to get any better at how they run the game as a union. So, yeah, if the whole thing is a joke, quite frankly. There we go.
I get frustrated because you'd think in a professional environment there would be a plan of how this is going to be rolled out. And a decision made yesterday, bring the players in, the clubs bring the players in, talk to the players. I think there's a WRPA session lined up with, either Wednesday or Thursday. And it should all come out in a sensible manner where the right people are informed in the right order. And even if they have planned it like that, for them to then leak it out, within 10 minutes is absolutely disgraceful. I just feel so sorry for those players.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, Grant. To be honest, I can understand why they can't make statements, but I'm with you in terms of the way the WRU have handled this has been nothing short of embarrassing, and I'm pretty sick of being the embarrassment of world rugby because of the way the WRU managed to handle themselves. Whether the clubs can make statements in terms of non-disclosure agreements is another thing, and I do also see it from their side why they can't make a statement. But the main issue is once you release stuff to the press, and worst of all, Wales Online, which doesn't have the best reputation, before, as you say, players are being informed, supporters have been informed, and other members of the club, that's where the issue lies. It's whoever's leaking all this information to the press, because there is a process to go through in these situations. Like in a normal business, you don't leak it to the press. You also don't really tell your employees unless you've signed on the dotted line either, because you don't necessarily know if the deal's going to go through. And if you're telling them, look, this is what we're going to do, we're going to buy Cardiff, we're potentially going to shut you down, well, then you might lose all your employees. And then if the deal doesn't go through, well, you're left with a club with no players, no employees. So I can see it from both standpoints, but I just think the way the WRU have handled it is my issue. That's where my issue lies. Like posting their completely tone deaf tweet about the halftime show and the bloody light show, and then getting a bit of backlash and going, oh shit, yeah, we should probably delete that. Like, how tone deaf do you have to be to think that's an appropriate time to put out something like that? Can you not read the room? Can they not read the room at all? And then deleting it then 20 minutes to half an hour later. This is the organisation that runs our game, and they're doing things like that. It's just fucking embarrassing, to be honest. It's embarrassing that that's the way they're running things. And yeah, I think my overall feeling is I feel bad for the players and any staff members at the Ospreys, to be honest, because it must be a really worrying and unsettling time.
I mean, notably, I think at 3 p.m. today, the players all put out a joint statement across both Instagram and Twitter. I mean, I think from what I can tell, it's pretty much all of the squad that's socially active. But for those of you watching on YouTube, we've got it up on the screen right now. But to clarify, Sam Parry's one has gone pretty viral. But as it says, as players, we want to address the current situation and offer supporters our point of view. We've been left in the dark by the WU and Y11. We ourselves had no information regarding the ongoing situation. We struggle to believe that the most successful Welsh team to exist with the biggest history is on the brink of non-existence. We will continue to play for the fans and the people who have stood by the Ospreys over the years. Quite frankly, this is an absolute fucking disgrace. I don't know how any business is supposed to operate, yet alone a professional sports team where your entire squad doesn't know if they have a job at the end of the season because you've decided that you want to give them, you don't want to give them a choice. To the 5 boys who have announced to decide new contracts so far this season will be realizing, what have I signed myself up to? The rest of them will now be scrambling to try and find job opportunities and further placements in the future. It is horrific for anyone involved. It's so incredibly tone deaf and just completely lacks any sort of empathy or sympathy of any capacity towards any of the members of staff to do with the Ospreys. It's truly disgusting. It is nice to see that all the players are on the same level. All the backlash has been firmly rooted in what the fuck is going on.
There's a statement in there which is quite telling. It says we've been left in the dark by the WRU and Y11. They don't mention the Ospreys in there. So, as far as an organisation, in terms of the playing side of things, the guys are tight and they together, and the coaching staff are together. And to see that last line there about continuing to play for the fans, it breaks me. I feel so sorry for the boys.
I personally don't know how they're going to keep going on, but at the same time, we're not stop supporting for at least.
You got to consider that the risk that they put their bodies through every time they take the pitch, right? Like every time you go out and play a game as physical as rugby, you don't know, if you're going to come off with a dislocated shoulder or whatever it may be. And now, add on top of that the fact that, well, I don't know where I'm going to be next season. I don't know what's happening to my contract. I don't know if I'm going to be a player. To expect people to go out there and put their bodies on the line for the fans and for the identity of the region, and so on, it's just it's just a bit of a joke, isn't it? Like on a human level, it's ridiculous. And I'm sure, like, people will, they're elite sportsmen, they're professionals, they want to win. But like, I just feel so sorry for them on a human level of just, you know, having no idea what's going on and then having to go out, you know, on the weekend and put your body on the line, you know, not knowing if you're going to have a contract at the end of the season or whatever it may be. It's madness. I mean, there's been a few tweets online as well, isn't there, about players, a lot of them looking to go elsewhere. A lot of players wanting out of Wales, full stop. How true that is, it's hard to tell, but based on, you know, the amount of players who do leave or, who go into different school systems, it's hard to see that doesn't got some truth to it. It's it's a mess, isn't it? It's an absolute mess.
Yeah, I think most people in Welsh rugby agree on one thing, and something needs to change because the way we're currently operating and have been operating isn't producing enough top quality players. The regions have been underfunded and performing poorly, and we probably don't currently have the funding for 4 teams. So,
Or do it.
well, this is the thing, we did,
Yeah.
and there's a parallel universe where they did do the due diligence over Cardiff's original owners, and apparently they've got loads of people wanting to invest, and they did find people who had the money to actually put into Cardiff. Everyone signed the PRA, and we're in a completely different situation. But I do also, I think there isn't actually enough money potentially for 4 teams. That's my personal opinion. I know that's very different to probably everyone else at the Wrap, but from from what I've heard, I don't necessarily think there is. But I don't necessarily have. My main issue is with the way it's all being conducted more than anything else. I think leaking things to people before your employees have had a chance to actually hear the news, and before you can actually give them any sort of clarity, because I don't think they'd actually be able to give them any clarity anyway, because there's no actual signature on a dotted line yet. So Y11 probably won't even know where things are going in terms of what the plan is with Cardiff and what deal they're going to get on on paper. Um, I mean, all the boys who have been offered contracts with us have been guaranteed a, you know, they're going to fulfill those contracts. Obviously, it's a big issue in terms of where they're going to end up playing if something does happen to the Ospreys. Um, Appreciate that. So there's a part of me that goes like, I know there needs to be change in Welsh rugby, but I don't want to be one of those people who goes, but I don't want anything to happen to my team. And there's obviously an emotional side where I don't want anything to happen to the Ospreys. And to me, that's the biggest thing that stands out in that statement is the second to bottom paragraph. We struggle to believe the most successful Welsh team to exist with the biggest history is on the brink of non-existence. And that's my biggest issue, where I don't actually think the best thing for Welsh rugby is to have one of the team to go to be the Ospreys, where they're the most successful region. They produce X number of players to the Welsh national team. Um, I don't actually, they're the second biggest city in Wales. So I don't actually think it's the best thing for Wales to shut down the Ospreys. I just think it was potentially the easiest option for the WRU to take to get to this shortcut. And that's where my issue lies, that they haven't thought about the long-term ramifications. They've just gone, well, what's the quickest way we can get down to 3? This is the quickest way.
And why like complicit in that as well, haven't they? Because you'd think you're right, Josh. If we'd failed to come to an agreement and this went out to a tender process, you'd like to think that the Ospreys, based on some of the facts around their performance and the geographics, etc., we'd be in a strong position to take a license. But we haven't gone down that line. We haven't got that far, have we?
So that's a question that I have, and there's going to be a lot of talk now about whether Y11 actually put the best bid in, or whether this has been, the best bid was the most convenient bid, and so on. And we'll never know. But what would help that is if it became clear on what criteria people were making these kind of judgments of companies and of bids, and also of like if they went out to tender process. I know that from my own experience, when you put out a big contract for something, like you have a criteria that you score the offers from the people that want to supply you with whatever it is, whether that be rugby or tools or whatever. Like nothing, nothing other than, well, trust us, this is the best bid, and there we go. And I would like to know if there would ever be any kind of like documentation from the W showing how they've actually conducted this process, because then it might be slightly easier to swallow if you understand how they actually rank, like, the scoring they gave to the bids and so on. But like, it's just, again, I know we're talking about as well, whether there's enough money in the game to have 4 regions. I don't know. But when you're paying consultancy firms through the nose for reports that clearly weren't worth the paper they were written on, and you've got, lots of, diversifying income and so on, and you're advertising jobs for 160 grand a year, I know that's not as much as what a region costs to run. I get that. But surely, like, the last thing you should be doing is putting an entire club out of out of existence, if that is where it's going. Surely that should be the last thing, not the first. It feels like that's the first thing that they've decided to do. Um, and if we're talking about the game in Wales, something I was thinking today, I was sitting down, is that rugby has a real problem with an aging fan base. Now, as people, the Ospreys have been around for 20 odd years. There'll be people who support the Ospreys and kids who support the Ospreys who grew up. It's a big region, you know, and their team's going to go. Well, where do they go now? Are we just going to lose all of them? They're going to go watch the Swans, probably. Go and watch the Swans. Lost the rugby, and there's generations of fans gone. Who are young and involved, and so it just. I think the damage of this is, if it goes the way I think we all think it's going to go, it. I, honestly, part of me on the negative side, I think the game's done. I think the game's done in Wales now. Like, I don't see how there's any coming back from this. I really don't. The national team's not performing. We're getting rid of a region, hoping that it ends up being good. The WRU, can't, couldn't arrange a piss up in a brewery by the looks of it. Like, what where do we go? Like that's, am I going to support the Scarlets? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
like it seems insane to me. But yeah.
From my conversations with both Ospreys and even Cardiff supporters, it seems like we're alienating, I'd say, at least half of regional rugby's fan base just immediately. Because Cardiff aren't happy with this. No one wants this to happen. No one at Cardiff wants to be owned by White 11. They think it's going to be a mess. I think everyone's feeling that they're going to lose their club and the same identity is never going to be the same. I think the big questions going forward are what actually happens now. What's the process going to look like when it's done? Is it just going to be Y11 buy out Cardiff and the Ospreys stop functioning? Is it going to be there's some sort of merger like there's been in the cards for the last decade almost, or rumoured merger? Or that there is one scenario and one tiny, tiny glimmer of hope. But we'll get onto that if it's even a possibility. At the moment, there's been threats of legal action, or not even just threats. But the current Swansea West MP, Torsten Bell, put out a statement earlier saying, explaining his thoughts beyond Ospreys being the strongest track record of any region in the game. The club and its fans should never be treated this way by the WRU, especially not in recent days. They're from the start basically criticising WRU Y11 going on, and it's been revealed, at least by both the BBC and Wales Online, that the legal action is being considered by Swansea's local authority and the MPs themselves, which is makes sense. You have to question, was all the pandering with St Helens now, what was it for?
Well, if Rob Stewart's statements of leader of the local authority in Swansea are fairly strong, and I suppose if there is going to be any legal action taken, then a local authority would be in a fairly strong position in terms of being able to do it properly in an organised way. So to me, that feels like a genuine, oh God, threat's probably the wrong word, but it's a genuine way forward in terms of trying to do something about what's happened.
For me, it depends on you know, what the legal action's about. Is it about money that's been spent and time that's been put into looking at redeveloping the St. Helens site when there was clearly no intention of, you know, guarantees of that happening? So like you don't know what is it to keep rugby you know, in the Swansea area, Swansea Neath area? Like I'm sure there is grounds for legal action, but it depends on what the council want to achieve with
Yeah.
that legal action as well, doesn't it? Whether it's to get some money back for what they see as being time wasted now, or whether it be, you know, yeah, who knows? Um,
From my reading of statements made by Rod Stewart, they want to keep the Ospreys, or at least professional rugby in Swansea, to a capacity that it is at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they want to, from everything I have read, which isn't particularly deep mind, it's very, but what the media is saying, it's, I get the opinion that everyone wants to keep the Ospreys, especially, and we're quite excited to see them at St Helens in the future. I don't see them wanting just to get their money back and move on with St Helens in the same place.
My only thing with that would be, well, obviously, to be fair, I haven't read this, so that's on me. But what would be the legal grounds for that? Because they can't just say necessarily, we want this team to exist, therefore that's our legal case. What would be the grounds for them to do that? Because I can understand if they've spent money on St Helens and they think they were aware of Y11 were aware this might happen when they spent that money, so that's public money wasted. Um, but I don't know what other grounds they could have for, because if the governing body tell you they don't have money for 4 teams, then what grounds could they have to, and what action would they take against who? Would it be the WRU? Would it be Y11?
Yeah, good point, Josh. Yeah, because it's going to want urgent clarification from Y11 about what's going on, what their intentions are. But
Mm.
again, as an organisation and a mechanism, if there is going to be legal action taken, then you've got to work out what that action is first of all. But local authority seems like a very sensible approach. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the very near future, supporters club will be talking to them.
Yeah, I struggle to see because it's Y11 that have bought Cardiff or look like they're buying Cardiff.
Mm.
If it was the WRU just shutting the Ospreys down and saying we don't want you, I could see how there might be like legal ramifications to that. But if it's the owners themselves just turning around going, well, we're going to roll them all up into one big company and change the name of that company to Cardiff Birds, like,
Mm.
yeah, it, 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 I don't see. I don't see how, like, where the problems would lie with that. I mean, I'm not, you know, you might as well be asking ChatGPT for advice on that at this point because I'm clueless when it comes to things like that, to be honest. But it feels to me like one of the reasons why WRU wanted this to happen is because it would be the easiest way, and it's one of the easiest ways because I think it probably is the path of like least resistance in terms of legally as well. But hey, like I think this is going to get a whole lot messier before it gets more clear. That's one thing.
I
Like,
think,
so,
yeah. Just going back to St Helens, I think that's one of the things I'm probably most upset about because it felt like everything we were doing, we were building to a really good, sustainable future for the club. I mean, I think the redevelopment of St Helens would have been amazing for the area. I think the links to the university would have been incredible. I know I'm saying stuff like, oh, brilliant, yeah, thanks for reminding me. But I think just as we were getting to a point where we were in a really sustainable position, I do think not having the match day income at um, the Swansea.com did probably hold us back to an extent for a few years, even though it's a brilliant facility. And atmospheres probably weren't what they could be. But yeah, I do think the move to St Helens was completely the right move. It's a shame we didn't necessarily pursue it earlier. And the plans looked really exciting. And to potentially have that all go up in smoke, is obviously gutting as an Ospreys fan. But then there's also an element where I'm like, well, they could still be looking to go ahead with that. They could still be going, right, well, we're going to split games between St Helens. We want the St Helens redevelopment to go ahead. And we want to split games between Cardiff and Swansea. And we want all that. But this is the problem when you leak things to the press before you have a full statement ready to put out and you have the details.
Yeah.
People like us on a podcast fill in the gaps and go, well, they're buying Cardiff. We're going to merge with Cardiff, play out of Cardiff and be called Cardiff. We haven't heard anything like that. But
no, I know, but I think the problem with filling the gaps is, as this has gone on, when we filled in the gaps, it turns out we filled in the gaps correctly.
yeah,
Like, like every step of the way, it's been like, okay, I speculate this is going to happen. And then what's really galling is that at some point you start to think like, oh, hang on a second, haven't you heard anything in a while? Apparently we're signing Chris Chunza. That's a good sign.
yeah,
And then then 3 days later, it's, oh, actually, like, Y11 are buying them. Like when the decision came about what they were going to do with the regions, everyone was informed, oh, they're keeping four. Turns out that's what's been listened to. And then the complete opposite a day later, which makes it even worse to an extent. I just think that there's been, behind the Ospreys in the last few seasons, with the move to Brewery Field and St. Helens and all that, there felt like there was momentum building again.
yeah.
There felt like there was something, there was a, there was a following being built and, getting out of the Swansea.com, into proper rugby grounds. I think there's something to be said for proper rugby grounds, and watching rugby in rugby grounds. And I just felt like, you know what, we've got a decent team, although, performances haven't always showed that this season. There is something in that team, and they're a very good team. If you look at the pack and things like that. And I was just like, oh, well, forget about it. And even if they do split games between Cardiff and Swansea, which I think they probably are looking for some kind of super region between the two cities in Wales, that would, kind of make sense. I'm not bothered. I'm not going to watch. Not because I didn't think that I could get behind it before, because like there's part of me that thought like, you know what, I might be able to stomach that actually. But given the way all this has played out now, and I'm probably not the only one who's going to say, do you know what? I should go watch Bristol or Gloucester or whoever. Like, because the idea of going to support this like club that been put together and people have lost their jobs and whatever it may be, is like I just leaves me feeling dead to it. You know, you can all judge me if you want to, but as someone who's grown up in West Wales, I'd be more likely to watch someone like the Scarlets and be a casual watcher of the game from there on out than I would to throw my hat in behind some kind of merged team because there's nothing there. All those players that have gone through the wins against Australia, the 2008 game against England, whatever it may be, all the history that Cardiff have as a rugby club as well, that's gone, man. There's no history to it. There's nothing to hang your hat on other than I like watching rugby. You
I'll
like
go back to some of the stats that we did as Ospreys Supporters Club in our survey that we put out on the back of the WRU's shambolic biased version. Okay, simple questions that needed answering. Would you support a merged Ospreys side? 4% straight yes, 36% maybe, 60% straight no. Okay, and I know that's an initial reaction to the consultation going on at the time, but the majority of people just say if we merge in, no, we give up. If we disbanded, would you go and support another professional team in Wales, as Jack just said? Being slightly casual, being based 1,000 miles away ish. Okay, 95% said no, 5% said maybe. I think more people would drop back down to supporting Super Rugby. But lots of people wouldn't. Again, I think people will either go and support community rugby or just give up because there's that much ill feeling. It's okay saying, "Oh, change is hard and it's a difficult journey," but people might not make it. People might not decide the journey's for them and just give up.
yeah.
Some people are confident enough to go, I'll give someone else a crack. But a lot of people, they've invested so much time and effort and they heart and soul into this, then that this could be it for them. Like you said, even if we exist as a merged side, Cardiff don't seem happy about. Sorry, Cardiff supporters don't seem happy about Y11. Osprey supporters are massively unhappy with Y11 and any potential merger.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It-
I don't know what's best, a merger or just ending us. For me personally, I think whichever way it went, I'd be done.
yeah. Yeah. As I said, I think the problem with the merger is that you lose all that history and that identity, and the whole point of why I watch the Ospreys is because of that identity that they have made from nothing.
Yeah,
In my time of watching rugby, because obviously I saw the back end of the club scene in Wales and the start of the regions. And yeah, like they built that identity slowly and over the years, and they became an actual region that was ingrained in the area. Originally, I grew up in Gowerton, and then I moved up to Bryn, and it's all one big Ospreys region. Um, and that's gone, and all the history with it, and they managed successfully to bring a lot of those clubs' histories into it as well, to lean into the big clubs. And I know that Aberravon felt hard done by clubs like Maesteg as well, but I think eventually they did a really good job of actually bringing them in, particularly when you see a lot of the players that passed through Aberravon who then went on to play for, the Ospreys and Wales. Like in the last like kind of 20 years, I think that a lot has been done to bring those things together and to merge again and ask fans to be part of that process again, it's ridiculous
it's
because it's not my identity. Like I couldn't be like, particularly when you consider like you know, going to be a little bit like uh, jingoistic, I guess, but like it's fucking East Wales, like it's Cardiff. I got nothing to do with up there. Like I've never lived up there. Visit maybe once every 3 months when I was living in Wales, like now the only time I will go there is if I'm going to watch the national side. Like it just it says nothing to me. It doesn't speak to me at all in any way, shape, or form. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who feel the exact same way. Um, and it's just really sad to be sitting here thinking that's just been by people who've just come in and gone, we want the easiest solution to a problem that we created.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there you go. Like it's just, yeah.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people are with both of you on that, to be honest. I think, especially if you were born in the area, if you were born in the area, I think raised in the area, you have a proper connection to the Ospreys, then I can completely see that point of view. Because, yeah, from my point of view, obviously, I'm not necessarily from Swansea, I'm not from that area. I was Wales first, I supported Wales, and then I was like, oh, a lot of the players I like Wales play for the Ospreys, I'm going to support them. Um, and yeah, it's just such a personal decision because I've been racking my brains whether I could keep following Welsh rugby, and I just genuinely don't know what I'd do if I stopped following it. It just for so long now, you know, I have a shit week at school, but I'd have the Ospreys to look forward to on the weekend, and then I'd went to university, I had a shit week at university, had lectures and fucking essays, and I'm like, oh, but I've got the Ospreys to watch on Saturday. I've got something to look forward to, and now I'm working. I've had a shit week at work, and I'm like, right. At least I've got the Ospreys to look forward to. As I've been getting older and older, I've always had the Ospreys to sort of like keep me going and have that thing on the weekends. And it makes a big difference, I think, mentally to a lot of people. And it, especially when you're, and I think it's even more so if you're from the area because you're going to the games and you've got community there and you've got a family that all have the same interest. And I think you can't just then merge it with another team and expect you to have that same connection. Um, I know it's only the minority. Obviously, Twitter makes it worse because you get some absolute pricks on there, and you then see their opinions and some very minority of Cardiff fans, I'm sure. But it just makes me go, oh, I don't want to fucking merge with them. I'll never be able to I'll never be able to get on with them.
I'm sure fans thought that about the likes of the Neath fans and vice versa in the early days. Given the nature, given the fact that people were encouraged to come together in the past to save Welsh rugby, this time round it feels as if we've just been sacrificed to save the WRU's face. It's very different, and people really are against it now,
You,
massively against this.
yeah, I mean, as well, like, thing is, we're talking about this like we haven't got like a case study as to what happens to fans who become disillusioned. I mean, if I look at like people, you know, even in my family who were big rugby watchers, you know, half would go and watch Leslie, half would go watch, the All Whites, so on. They couldn't, a lot of them lost interest in the end when it turned into the Ospreys. They go down and watch the game casually, as I suspect if this goes the way, I think it is, I might end up being like that. But like their love of the game and their love of the club game definitely subsided. If I talk to my old man, for instance, he'll tell stories on my mother of going down to St. Helens and watching Swansea and it being sellouts and so on. And they didn't carry that over into watching the Ospreys, for instance. And it's just, there's probably loads of people you could talk to like that throughout the valleys and throughout, you know, a lot of the regions who got, fed up with the game in the end, and lost interest. It's just really sad because, as I said, like I agree with you, Josh. Like one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast is because it's part of like my identity and I live away. So being able to talk about a region with you guys on, once a week, it actually gives me something I wasn't getting out here, which is a large part of my identity, which is to talk rugby with people who also love rugby. And none of us really knew each other. We met like one time, not you, Josh, because you've been a shit lad. But like but it brings people together,
Yeah.
and it gives you an escape, and it provides you with a grounding almost as well. Um and
Big
yeah,
identity thing, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
you got your
you
work
know,
family, you got your real family, you got your rugby family.
yeah,
No, yeah, now we've got a rugby podcast family too.
yeah. And it's one of those where it's like,
Yeah.
well, It's just sad because, I've explained to everybody I meet how much I like rugby and the rules and how ingrained it is in Welsh culture and so on. And now I'm just going to be like, yeah, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's-
Yeah.
I don't know. There's part of me that thinks, if our players go elsewhere, because I have such an affinity to this group of players. I know we've had amazing groups of players over the years, like the Galacticos and all that. But I genuinely think this group of players are my favourite ever Ospreys, just because I think they just feel so ingrained in the region. They're gritty, they're hard, they put everything into the shirt, and you know some of them, it feels a bit like an island of misfit toys of people who didn't quite fit in elsewhere. We brought them all together and we put on an Osprey shirt and they look like absolute world beaters. And yeah, the idea of having to watch those players disband and go to other clubs like properly breaks me. Like, I hate the idea of that. I hate the idea of having to see Harry Deeves in a different coloured shirt. I think I saw a comment on Ospreys Ospreys fan base on Facebook. I think it was Keith's mum saying he wanted to finish his career as an Osprey. He doesn't want to play for anyone else. He wants to play for the Ospreys. He grew up supporting the Ospreys. He wants to finish his career as an Osprey, and that opportunity is being completely taken away from him.
Yeah. And the worst part is that might mean as well him having to leave the game in Wales
Yeah,
and go somewhere else as well. There might not be, at the end of the day when you get rid of, you're getting rid of playing opportunities. And so all of a sudden, players like Keith who are really, 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 really solid club players out knocking on the door Wales as well, are now probably looking at it going like, well, okay, we got three regions. Say there's going to be four centres each region. Who are the centres? Well, I'm not going to go there. They probably got, so where do I go? What do I do? You know? Partic like, yeah, it's just really, really sad and deflating for the players, for the fans. Um, yeah. On the eve of the Six Nations as well, where like they're expecting people to pay, what was the cheapest ticket to go see Wales France is 85 quid and there's loads of seats left. So, and I suspect there might be a few more now. Like yeah, I mean, I it's a mess, isn't it? And I don't really see it getting fixed anytime soon. Yeah, it's I, I I really do feel for all those players and all the other fans and all the staff that are sitting there today, uh, wondering what happens next for them.
At the end of the day, we need to think mainly about the players. It's all well and us losing our club, our region, but these people are losing their jobs, their livelihoods. The Ospreys have got what 38, 39 man squads so far this season that we've used. Maybe 10% move on to England. Maybe 10, another 20, 30% go get signed by another club in Wales. Then missing half your squad is then dropped instantly, alongside all the staff around the club, the physios, the coaches, the social staff, the administrators, everyone is going to be laid off in a certain amount of time because the owners have sold under the bus.
it's well put. Sorry, lads, I'm going to have to shoot. I've got rugby training, but yeah, I'll catch you guys soon.
Joe.
Let's try and end on a small positive. 7 Ospreys have been called into the Welsh regional national squad for the Six Nations, and I think it's right that we celebrate them appropriately. Just for, yeah. They're going to represent both us, Wales, and the region on the world stage. It's worth we give them a shout out. Harry Dees, Dan Edwards, Kieran Hardy, Darry Lake, Rupert Morgan Williams, Gareth Tom, and Owen Watkin have all been recalled in, which is obviously lovely to see at the end of the day. Maybe a couple of names that we think could have missed out, but it's nice to know that even if the WRU don't think our region's worth having, they'll still take our players and our coaches.
Yeah, congratulations, boys. I don't know if they're going to have a tough time in training camp, or they're going to have all of their mates around them from the other regions giving them a tap on the back and looking after them, because that's what they need right now.
I don't think they'll be getting a tough time as long as exactly in their control.
Right? No, I mean a tough time just within themselves. They need a bit of support, don't they, these guys?
Yeah.
I'm quite glad there's a Bridgen boy in control of all it. I think Steve Tandy will be able to probably help these guys through it, hopefully. I don't know. I also have a feeling if I see Harry Deves put on a Welsh jersey, he's going to make 40 tackles and kill 2 people.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
Oh,
yeah. Those guys won't let you down, will they?
do you like the idea of Harry Deves at 7 and Henry Pollock?
Mm.
that would be glorious.
Yeah, but still, congratulations to them all. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
fair play to them.
In terms of like we've still got a game on Friday, and there's almost like a call to arms with supporters at the moment in terms of what do people want to do. There's a meeting going on in Nice starting in about 10 minutes, which I'm going to pop into to see where people's heads are at. But I think we'll be from the supporters club point of view, we'll be encouraging everyone to go along, supporting the team, supporting our boys out there. But if people want to write whatever they want on some banner and wave it around at the game, okay, you carry on. You let your feelings known.
This is not a time to be quiet.
Yeah.
This is a time for the fans collectively of all the regions to stand together
Yeah.
against.
Go and let the boys know how you feel in terms of cheering them on. Go and let the WRU and Y11 and everyone else know how you feel as well.
Let's pack the brewery for the last few weeks of the season. Just show them that we're not going to go down quietly. I think it's best we leave it there for this week, gents. We should be back next week to talk about more rugby related matters. Maybe, unless this all happens again, which until then, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll hopefully chat to you all soon. Ta-ra.
Bye.